Okay. Now,
Okay.
okay.
I click. Okay. So shall we start? Huh? Okay. So welcome everyone to monthly online meditation in June again. So we didn't see you for 2 months. So now we come back to the mindfulness meditation again. So this month we have a new faces. So we should start with the new faces. Just welcome everyone. For you, I let you to introduce quickly, and then Prajan will continue with the session.
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to join you. My name's Kayla. I live in Bern, and I know Sanya and Jonas, so I've heard about the meditation from both of them, and they both know that I've been trying to work a little bit more on my mindfulness, so that's why I'm joining you today.
Welcome.
Okay, so I will continue. Hello, everyone. My name is Maite. I'm delighted to be here with you. I am also a friend of Sanya. I am currently in Poland, in the Warsaw, and he was talking about this meditation session, and I was quite enthusiastic to join you. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else wants to speak? No? Okay. Right, so good morning. Thank you for coming to join our this monthly practice session. Today, actually, I am at the Solus Festival in Perth. And the Solus Festival normally used to be Christian gatherings. And now this year we have invited Interfaith Scotland, and through that I am invited to teach meditation here for 2 days. So now it's not just a Christian festival, it's become a Christian arts and craft and spiritual festival. So that's why signal is not good. I supposed to be basically in my tent when I ask an organizer to use this stable. So you are in a horse room. So I am in a horse room. So I'm teaching with you, and then with a horse room. Right. So with that background, let's practice before we go into a little bit of mindfulness in a theory. So sitting in a comfortable position, relax yourself and leaving all your responsibilities aside. It doesn't matter what you have to do, just leave aside, connect yourself with the mind body. You may take a few long, deep breaths. And as you take the breath in and breathe out, experiencing the entire body, feeling from inside, not by thinking. We spend much of the time thinking about so many things. So in the practice, we are not thinking anything, but feeling the body, or feeling even the thoughts that I am thinking. So as you breathe in, experiencing the entire body. As you breathe out, again, experiencing your entire body. So feeling from inside, not from the mind, not from the brain or thinking. So while you are experiencing the body along with the breath, if any thoughts arises, we can use two ways of dealing with. One, discard immediately and remain with the experiencing the body along with the breath. Or you can leave the experiencing the body along with the breath and paying attention to that thought and watching that thought for a few moments, and again, do not be with it. And let go and back to the breath and experiencing the body. Initially, you may be forcing yourself to be mindful of this breath coming in, going out, and then experiencing the body, the expansion and contraction of the body. Whereas you experience it, rather than regulating or holding or making it to happen, let it flow and observing naturally, normally. Like the river flow. You're sitting at the bank of the river, watching the river flow and enjoying. So this moment we are doing three things. Number one, watching the breath as you feel and experiencing the entire body, and without controlling and regulating the breath. Number two, whenever anything comes to distract you, either discarding that or leaving the breath and experiencing the body, watching that distraction. And the third thing, whichever ways we're doing, we are maintaining our awareness to the breath and experiencing the body. So first, experiencing the body along with the breath. Second, when we have distractions, we spend some time with it, observing it and letting go and come back to the breath and experiencing the body. There's just one more thing that I would like to add. When you are observing a distraction, so first of all, observing that my mind is distracted to something else, whether the thought or the feeling or the pain or the sound that you are hearing. At that moment, observing that this mind has been distracted acknowledging the mind is no more with the breath and experiencing the body. And then noting that mind is having this another object as a distraction or a distraction of perceiving, and letting go. Let go of that distraction and back to the breath and experiencing the body. This will be the basic practice that we will be repeating again and again. So that is the mindfulness. Mindfulness basically means ability to remember that what we are doing while it is taking place, observing it mindfully without any judgments and telling any stories on top of it. So in this case, we are not thinking about the past, nor thinking about the future, but being mindful of what's happening at this very moment. Mindfully aware of the breath coming in, going out, experiencing the body. Whenever the distraction comes, we can do either discarding it completely and remain with the breath and experiencing the body, or leaving the breath and experiencing the body, but spending some time with the distraction, observing, acknowledging, noting, and letting go. So continue practicing. And remember that you are not regulating the breath, nor holding it. You're simply sitting at the bank of the river and watching the river flow. So breathing in, breathing out, experiencing the entire body. Relax and observing so ardently but persistently observing, being alert and remembering the task that what am I doing now? And now bring your attention to your eyes. And you may open your eyes slowly and reflecting for a while. So slowly come out from the practice. Right, so thank you everyone once again. Yeah, so this is a short introductory practice of a mindfulness meditation, which we can use it in our regular practice. Basically, this will be the repetition of a practice again and again. So as we practice it, gradually we go into the deeper and a deeper understanding of what mindfulness meditation is about. So previous session, we discussed about the 4 foundations of a mindfulness, the Satipatthana, which is ability to develop our awareness, to focus on the body, in the body, and also of the body. An ability to connect with our feelings as we are observing the breath, observing the body. Without the feeling, we would not be able to communicate or link with the body. And in order to feel that again, we have to have the mind or the consciousness. Only then we will be able to connect between the body, feeling, and the mind. And as we are observing these 3 at the same time and mindful of it, it helps us to recognize that these are conditioned and how these things works and how it functions. Now, the important part of the practice of it is urgency, ardently practicing. The question is, how ardent are you in the practice? How much you can be mindful in your day-to-day life. And further on, developing the mind with the so-called the alertness Are you alert with what you're thinking? Are you alert with what you are speaking? Are you alert with what you are doing? And this alertness actually reinforcing your mindfulness. You're constantly aware of whatever you're doing. And with that, what happens is that it helps us to recognize that every action that we are performing, whether that is with our desire or with the distress. If that's a desire, then we will have this tendency to grasp and hold on to and wanting to get it more and more. And if that's in the same time disliking it or unpleasantness, then there will be tendencies to push it away. So whatever we are experiencing in the present world, in fact, is that we are defining from ourselves. And this is happening this, and this is not happening this. And that's only on the basis of our own desire. So that's why the practice of meditation or Buddhist meditation, basically, it's not just developing the awareness of this body, feeling, mind, but ability to maintain it, ability to generate the desire not to let the mind go into any which is called unskillful qualities which hasn't been arisen yet in our minds and heart. So as we become mindful of this body, feeling, and the mind, in that time, we have to generate this wisdom to realize that, okay, whatever action that I am committing, whether that is skillful or unskillful, so ability to define it. And after ability to define, if that's unskillful actions, then we have to develop this endeavor that and the persistence of the action that we are avoiding or we are trying not to commit it. Okay? So that is the first thing that we have to generate. Which again, normally what happens is that because of unmindful or not being mindful of what we think, what we say, what we do, whenever we are doing it without understanding the results of it. And as a result, we are committing it, and which becomes normally unskillful actions. And with that unskillful action, the results is always unhappiness. And that unhappiness is not just for ourselves, but for others too. And we will have this desire that why they do not understand, why they don't recognize, why they don't do it. So we go on with that proliferation, manifestation, and goes on. So that's why the practice is basically, initially, we are training ourselves to be mindful of body, feeling, and a mind, so that whenever something happens, at that time, we will be able to define that whether to react with the wholesome quality or unwholesome. And we will be able to recognize that the wholesome quality that I am doing, it has a result, a wholesome result, a happiness. Unwholesome action that I am doing will be unwholesome or unhappiness. So that is the first thing we will be able to recognize. And with that recognition, what happens is that we will be able to generate the desire and putting an effort and putting an effort not to let this mind do anything that is unskillful. And when this mind of not doing anything that is not skillful, this mind once aroused, we will be persistently keeping that state of the mind and upholding it. And with that upholding, that helps us to keep our mind or holding this mind in a mindful way. So that would be the first action. Now, the question is how often we can be mindful of that way. Yeah. The moment when we can be mindful in that way, super good. Yeah. We will be happy all the time because we know the reaction, we will know the results. But what is happening in most of the time is that we are always occupied with something that beyond our control, something that is we want to control. And with that, what happens is that we are reacting with unmindfully without knowing the result. And this unmindful reaction, always known as the unskillful reaction. And this unskillful reaction brings unhappiness. So mindfulness meditation helps us to be aware of what's happening, not only out there, but aware of ourselves, our body, our mind, our feeling, and aware of the situation, what's going on. Right? And then ability to put our mind in a balance. So balanced mind. When this balanced mind basically is the full of wisdom, not overtaken by greed, hatred, not overtaken by our desire. And in this case, we can be mindful that what am I going to do? So we will be able to respond to that, aha, this is happening, rather than I want it. So rather than reacting, we are responding that, okay, I am experiencing this, and this is the reaction that I am thinking of. And now I am not going to do it because the result is something else. So keeping this mind in that way is balancing the mind in a stable way. With that stable mind, what happens is that we will have a choice to do. Now we have a choice to do skillfully or unskillfully. And this skillful and unskillful coexist with the mindfulness. And that's how our mindfulness becomes so strong. And every action that we are doing, whether the thinking, whether speaking, whether physically doing, becomes skillful. And this is how we learn. And that is the reason, as you develop your awareness, your practice of meditation in a day-to-day life, whenever situation comes, you will be able to generate this awareness and keep the mind in balance. Like for me, I try to be mindful as much as I can in every walks of my life, particularly my thoughts. So I try to keep my mind so aware of my mind and what I am thinking of. Because thinking leads to the speaking and action. Normally we think and then we react. Now, if you can be mindful of your thoughts, then what happens? You have a control over your thoughts. When you have a control over your thoughts, what happens? Every action that you are reacting to it results, you know that's what's going to happen. You don't have to wait for it. You already know the result of it. It's like after you have eaten food, you know that you will be full. Your tummy will be full. But the problem is that our mind is like a wild animal, like here I am in a stable. So a horse, like a wild horse. Yeah? A wild horse needed training. Our mind needed training. In order to train this wild horse, what do? First, you tie it into something, and after that, you make it familiar with that horse, and horse will feel comfortable with you. And then after horse feel comfortable with you, then you can gradually padding the hole, feeding the horse, and then walking the horse, and then gradually, step by step, you're training. And that's how you are domesticating the horse. And once you have domesticated the horse, then what happens? You can use it for any purpose, whether to cultivate the field or go to war. It's entirely up to us. Now, mind is similar to the wild horse. What we have to do is make it familiar with it, that I am having this mind. And gradually go into, okay, knowing this mind, familiarizing with it, and then gradually able to channel it where it wants to go. Where do you want it to go now? Not where it wants to go, where you want it to go. And that's how we are domesticating this mind for our own good purpose. Now, the way to do it in the practice of a meditation, that's why we have got the two methods of doing. Number one, we call it concentration meditation. So we adapt one object to concentrate, developing focus attention on that particular object. And to do that, you have to have a proper ways of doing it, and then dedicating yourself. It's not just like a one-off and you will be free. No, you have to work a little bit. Only then you can have it. Otherwise, no. So now here we are practicing a breathing meditation. As you breathe in and breathe out, experiencing the entire body today. So asking yourself that how much you can pay attention to it. So this is the concentration. So developing our focus attention by observing the breath. And not by thinking, not regulating, and not keeping the breath in any particular place, but you're experiencing as you breathe in and breathe out. Whether you are closing your eyes or you open your eyes, you're experiencing it, noticing it. And that will be the first part. And after that, the second one is, we call it the visitors. Yeah? So the first one is the core. And the second part is the visitor. Visitors are normally known as a distraction. Now, in the second part of the practice, what happens is that distraction is no more distractions, but becomes the friend. Becomes the friend to letting us know that, oh, your mind is distracted. And with that, what happens is that gradually we develop more understanding that, okay, my mind is always flickering, always changing. When we develop focused attention, we are controlling it to be mindful of one object. Whereas the nature of the mind is a flickering, always changing, arises and moves and changes all the time. And as a result of that, Buddhist meditation is not something that you're only focusing on something for a longer period of time and gaining the concentration and zoned in alone, but it is a practice to learn and develop the awareness and wisdom to understand things as they truly are. And that is beginning from our own mind, that how our mind is flickering, how our mind is changing. And with that understanding, what happens is that every time when we are reacting to something, whether it's by thinking or whether by speaking or whether by physically doing it, we become mindful, aware, alert. and all the action becomes skillful rather than unskillful. And with that skillful means of working, definitely we become happier in our life. Right? So that is the main theme of here, that practicing is to recognize or basically being aware, and then keep the mind in balance and ability to choose what to do, whether to react or respond alone. And that respond, basically you have control over it and you can define what you want to do. So that is the main theme of the practice and developing it. Right? And the second thing is that when you have the thought of any unskillful qualities or negative thoughts comes, then that's already in your mind. And now that what you're doing is not letting it to take control over you. Ability to uprooting it, taking it out. And the moment when you can get rid of all these negativities in your mind and always full of love and compassion in your heart and in your mind for yourself and then to others, what happens? World is beautiful. Yeah? The life is so happy. Now, it's not just in the so-called the words and the sentence and the hopes, but we can develop from our own heart. The matter is ability to maintain it. Can you maintain that state of the mind without any confusion? Yeah, without any confusion, but ability to increase it. So, like yesterday, I was given a chance to be one of the panelists on the subject called sowing the seed of hope. Yeah, and then I define the hope as a heart with a helping mind. H is heart for the helping mind. And the second O is opening mind, open to everything. And the third is P for patience. And then the last one, obviously, enjoy your life. Yeah. So first, heart with a helping mind. Now, whenever we think about the helping mind, we always think out there. But Buddhist practices are not just out there, begin from here. Help yourself and then help others. And then this way of looking at it, what happens is that rather than closing your mind into the certain perceptions and views and understanding, keep it open. Keep it open and observe everything that's coming in a very objective way, not like a subjective, this is an I like, this is I don't like. No, objectively, oh, this is happening there. And in order to practice that one, again, you cannot rush. You have to have a patient mind, patiently observing the situation, patiently observing your feelings, your thoughts, and how you're reacting. And with that, when you have a true realization of each and everything, from even from the bottom of your heart, your mind, mental state, and then out there, so you have a proper understanding of inside and outside there, what happens? Life is, it's okay, fine, easy peasy, and enjoy the life. Okay? So that is the purpose of the practice of a meditation. Yeah? So I end here for this reflection. Yeah. And with this, let's practice a little bit, and then we'll have a question, answer, and discussion. Okay, so once again, sitting in a comfortable position and practicing meditation. So this moment, just wiggling yourself to find a comfortable position. You may put your hands on your lap, right hand on top of the left hand, if possible. Otherwise, you can just leave your hands on your knees, covering your knees. If possible, not leaning on your sofa like this, but trying to keep your body in a little bit of straight, like a ceiling is pulling your body. And with that, let your body rest on your chair or sofa or on a cushion. Feel the touch, the heat, the cold, the comfortable. And you may take 2 or 3 deep, long breaths, experiencing your body. Feeling it, not by thinking, but feeling it. And spend time for a while observing the breath as it comes and as it goes. As you're observing the breath, experiencing the entire body. So with that, we have no thoughts, but simply feeling it. So the first part that we are feeling is the body. So experiencing the entire body, knowing the body. The body in the body, as well as body of the body. So body in the body is basically the little part of entire body. And then even that little part of the body, we become very mindful of it. As breath comes in, where do you feel the breath the most? So that is in the body. And that particular part, we become more mindful. So we become mindful of the body. And that requires the feeling. And with that feeling, we're able to be mindful of it. So when we are observing this body again, we are observing it through the feeling. And sometimes we feel comfortable, other times a little difficult. And sometimes it is become very easy to notice it because mind is there. Other time it just fades away. Mind is lost into the thoughts. So developing the awareness of any situation is taking place. Aware of the body, or aware of your feeling, or aware of the mind that is thinking of something, or whatever you are hearing or taking place while we are practicing it. So developing this awareness. Keep the mind alert and awake and aware of it. As you're aware, developing this desire or intention, whether to react or simply to respond. And each reaction or each response that you are developing in your mind, whether that is skillful or unskillful, if that's unskillful, just get rid of. Just do not pay any attention, simply responding, this is there. And if that's a positive or skillful, then keep doing it. So maintaining this awareness, keeping the balance and making our own choices, understanding things as they truly are. So breathing in, breathing out, experiencing the body. If you can't practice, simply observing this, breathing in, breathing out, experiencing the body. So keeping the mind with it. So simple practice is breathing in, breathing out, experiencing the body. When distraction comes, spend some time observing, acknowledging, noticing, and letting go and back to the object, the breathing in, breathing out. Now bring your attention to observe the feeling in your body and to your eyes. And slowly open your eyes and come out from the practice and reflect for a few moments. Okay, so the floor is yours. You can share your thoughts, your experiences, and if you have any questions to ask, you may ask. So floor is yours. Anybody wants to take on?
Me?
Okay, yes, yeah.
I started off by thinking, feeling the body, of course, as you instruct, and first thing is always kind of pains, some kind of pains that you have in the body, and I have various pains always. I'm working physically quite a lot these days, so you try to do everything that you need to avoid the pain. So you do your stretching, you do your exercises, you do your meditation, you do your breathing, and still in the morning you wake up and you're full of pain, you know. And it will only get worse. The older you get, the more you get pain. So that has been kind of in my mind. So now in the meditation, I realize, okay, it's there. First of all, pain is there. And then I'm like, okay, is it really pain? Maybe it's just discomfort. That already helps to think, okay, maybe it's not really pain. Pain is a very strong word. So if you put a different name on it already, I don't know, it changes nature. And then within the pose that I have or I choose, to maybe allow myself to to adjust a little bit. So you're not too rigid. Oh, you have to be in this pose. and that gives some kind of freedom in the body, which yeah, I just went through, and I thought it was something that might help to share it. And with the time, yeah, you realize that it's okay, and the body adjusts, mind adjusts, and there's some kind of calm that comes. That was my experience, especially at the second practice. Now, first one was still like, whoa, where am I? And then now the next one was like, okay, I can focus, and it's easier.
Yes. Normally, pain is something that is natural. Suffering is your choice. So pain is something natural that will come, and we are bound to have it. Whether doesn't matter which way we try to avoid it, it's there. It's only a matter of how much we pay attention to it, in which way. If we have a right understanding of it, then we will be paying attention to it and just putting in a wriggling a little bit and changing a little bit. Oh, it's okay. Then with that, the pain will just disappears. But if we take it, oh, despite of having done this and despite of having done that, and why I'm still having a pain. So you are having double pain. So you have a physical pain as well as a mental pain. And when it becomes a mental pain, then it won't disappear easily. It will continue, and you will be mourning, oh, I'm having this pain and having that pain, and that will affect to your family member, your job, and whatever you're doing, you're still thinking of that. So you are basically exaggerating mentally. Physical pain may have gone long. Practice of a mindfulness meditation basically helps us to recognize that I am having this pain now. What? Just change a little bit and then move on, and the suffering is no more. So that's why pain is inevitable. Suffering is your choice, and that you have done very well, Jonas.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? No one? Looks like
Yes.
it's early morning. Oi?
I could. Yeah, just to continue from what Jonas just said, because sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, okay, I have pain everywhere. And I think it was a few months ago that I shared that sometimes my mind got scattered everywhere when I try to sit and meditate. So I do through the guided meditation. Sometimes I just put your YouTube video and okay, I'm listening to you so I can stay focused with my breathing and everything. But what I try to do these past few weeks is that I do sun salutation, do my yoga practice at the same time. So I get 2 in 1. I do stretching and I keep my mind focused, and then I don't think of something else, because if you don't focus, you forget which move you have done already. So in a way, it keep my mind focused, my breathing and everything, and I got my stretching in at the same time. But I'm trying to keep it at it every day, but haven't been that good at it, but I will work on it. I also like what you just said before. That's also what I'm trying to do, that I try to respond to the situation instead of reacting. Because reacting, you don't really think, you just react. Respond, you have to go through a bit of process before you do something. Also working on it to be a bit better, but work in progress on both. Yeah, that's all I want to share. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I would like to add a little bit on that about the unable to focus, or unable to keep the mind focused on something, and it's always distracting and restless. We have to remember that our mind is always conditioned, and it's always changing and flickering movement, slight things is always changing so greatly. And the mind is similar like that. It's the nature of a mind is to change, not static. But the practice of a meditation, which we normally have this understanding of that, we practice to keep the mind focused on one object. So our desire is not the letting this mind to think anything apart from what I am willing it to think. So that is, we have to understand that is not the right understanding. Although at the beginning, we practice to keep the mind focusing on one object, but that is not the ultimate. Okay? So that's why we have an object, we pay attention to it, and developing the focus attention. And meanwhile, when mind is distracted, do not be worried about it. Recognizing that distracted mind, right? So that's why I use the 4 words: observe, acknowledge, note, and let go. Observing that my mind is distracted, acknowledging that distraction, noting that, oh, distracted. Yeah, or if that's thought, thinking. If that's anger. And then letting it go, not keeping or not living with that long, letting it go and back to the primary object. So with that, what happens is that not just keeping the mind away from any problems, which we do not know when it's coming, it's possible at any time it may come. We are there to solve the problem. So we can keep the mind alert and awake at that very moment when we are experiencing that problem or that situation. So it helps us to understand that properly. Whereas if we are thinking of mindfulness meditation is to maintain our focus on one object all the time, then we are trying to escape or running away from the problem. Okay, I don't want this one, I just need this one. Like that. And there is liking and disliking comes. With that liking and disliking, who wins the most? Always disliking wins the most. So with that, then we become disturbed and we feel unhappy. So that's why practice of inside meditation, we call vipassana meditation, is basically learning to know things exactly when it takes place and ability to comprehend it completely. So rather than thinking that my mind is so distracted, knowing that distracted mind, oh, my mind is distracted, what's wrong with it? Knowing it, and then, okay, come back. Knowing the body, okay, that's fine. And that's how we develop the awareness. Okay, so, but however, at the initial time, we can do many things to develop our mindfulness. Okay, so that's just, I wanted to add a little bit on what you have said. Anyone else? What about our new members, Kyla or Mighty? Sorry if a pronunciation
Maite.
is...
No, it's perfect. Maite. Yeah.
Mighty.
No, I first of all, thank you very much. I think it has been a fantastic session. For me, building on what we was saying, is many times there are things in life that we cannot control. And I mean, for me, sometimes, especially, I mean, all of us, we go, you know, life has ups and downs. And for me, my nature is I consider myself like a fighter, because I mean, if there is a problem, I try to put always a solution and act upon. But in many cases, I mean, this is not possible because the solutions are not, you know, you have to let it go, as you said. And this is sometimes very, very painful and is very difficult. I have to say.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yes. It is painful because
I allow myself this choice, no? Because suffering is a choice. Pain is a nature, you said before, and suffering is my choice.
yes. Yeah, that is the case. But if we have fully understood, then there will be no suffering. Only matter is we feel suffered because we haven't fully understood, and we have to let go despite how hard we wanted to keep it. But if we really know that this is no more, then we just simply let it go without lingering to it at all.
Yeah, but in life, I mean, I can give you an example. For instance, someone close to you who has a illness. And it's very difficult, these kind of situations, you know, so.
Yeah, so that's why you want a family member to be free from that illness. You cannot do anything, right?
I can help on the having a right attitude, you know, like to have a better mood, or I don't know.
Yeah. So in this case, that's why if you have done full what you can do, and then yet you cannot help, or you cannot help that person to be free from that illness, then you have your satisfaction that I have done my best. Then you will just leave it. This is that much I can do, but not anymore. Then with that, you have a right understanding that this much I can do, and yet you cannot help it. With that, the letting go of what you have said will not be suffering, will be more satisfying. But you're thinking of a beyond your ability, and that's why you're bringing suffering to yourself. Yeah. Whereas this practice helps us to recognize that, okay, this much I can do. Beyond this, I cannot. And I have done my best. So with that, okay, what next? So you just leave it, and then it will not be suffered. And this is always happened to everybody. Almost everyone is suffering in that way. And that's simply because we have a desire to have him or her with us, or free from that illnesses, and which is beyond our control. And we want to control it. And that's why we suffer. But if we just keep it in mind that, okay, this much I can do, but rest is there, we call it their karma, then we will not be suffered. So we call it equanimous mind. Equanimous mind doesn't mean that I don't care. I have done everything possible things that I can do, and yet I cannot. So now this is the limit. So I leave it. So with that, that's called the right understanding. And it comes with the practice, and you can leave yourself free from suffering. Otherwise, always punishing, oh, wish I have done this, oh, wish I have done that, oh, why I didn't do that one, oh, why I didn't do this one. Who is suffering? I am suffering because I am making myself suffering, which is beyond my capability, beyond my ability. And yet I am thinking that I can. No, you can't. So practice helps you to let it go. So that's why letting go in Buddhism is not that I don't care, but you have done all the possible ways and yet you can't. Now it's time to let go. And you have nothing to feel of sorry at all. That is a true letting go. And that's called equanimous mind. In Buddhism, we call upekha. Upekha, equanimous mind.
Thank you.
And that is the most important part that we have to develop in our life, and which is not easy, because we still have attachment to ourselves, attachment to the family members, attachment to the status, attachment to our whatever you say, attachment to everything. It's not easy to overcome that attachment. It takes time, slowly, one after another, one after another. I cried when my mother died. I cried when my father died. And after that, what can I do? It's beyond my ability. So after that, I realized that, oh, okay, it's a nature. Now let go. Like that. Okay. So suffering is our choice.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody? Kyla, you want to share something? Your practice?
Sure. I mean, I think it'll improve with more practice, but I did definitely struggle a little bit with maintaining a feeling of staying present and accepting and releasing thoughts, distracting thoughts that are coming. And I think, I mean, going off of what you've just been talking about too, one thing that I struggle in the day-to-day is a kind of like disconnect between feeling and logic, because I know that logically, if you accept things as they are, if you accept that some things are out of your control, the response will become easier. But I'm struggling with putting down and releasing the feeling of fear or anticipation or worry about the future. So that's one thing that I would like to try and work on a little bit with this practice.
Now, this is a very difficult one. Fear and anticipation. But if we have fully understood, then again, there won't be any fear and there won't be any anticipation. A fear is something that hasn't been happened, and worrying about it on the basis of what had happened or what could have happened. So something that never happens or may not happen, and yet we are thinking of it, and with that we feel fear. And to overcome that one, you have to work on yourself slowly, one after another. Suppose you have a fear of something, try to learn to work with it. Like me, myself, I had a very bad experience of snake chasing me when I was young. We were playing hide and seek in my village, and I went to hide behind one of the houses, and there happened to be a green 2 meters snake, which I never knew. I had already went there once or twice, but never experienced of that snake. And at that moment, the snake chased me, and I was screaming out loud and running for my life. And ever since, I have this fear of a snake. Before that, it was okay. It was fine. When we were farming, we saw a snake, and we just took them to the river, and like that. I didn't have any fear at all. Except after that experience, whenever I feel or even seeing the picture of this snake, doesn't matter how big that is, goosebumps stood up and shakes, and fear starts to bubbling in my mind. And that again continued even when I was in Thailand as a monk. Yeah. So whenever going into the jungles for meditation, first thing in my mind appears is the snake. What if? What will I do? So I was constantly in fear of a snake. And then later, as I developed my meditation gradually, then I began to see the snakes from pictures. And whenever I see the snake and the fear generates in my mind, I immediately, rather than looking at that picture or a snake, I look at my fear. Look at my fear, the heart palpitation, the heart squeezing and like that. So I watch that one, and sometimes sweating. So I watch that the chemical changes that takes place in my body. So I keep away from that fear of something, but observe my feelings and sensations that took place in my body, all the chemical changes that took place in my body. And with that, what happened was that I was suddenly understood that, oh, the fear is something, the object is something, and the feeling of a fear is another thing. Actually, fear is actually not from that object, is actually manifestation of my own self. My own self. That's simply my thinking. Snake is just a picture, and why I feel that fear. So with that, I'm able to disconnect. And then with that, a couple of years ago, before the COVID, I went up camping in the Scottish hills, which I normally do for a couple of days. And I always had in my mind that there is no snake. But actually in Scotland, there are some snakes up in the hills. And I saw that snake this long. And then I thought, goodness, suddenly I was frightened. I jumped. And then I noticed my fear again. And then, oh, right, this is a snake. So I gained my awareness and observed all the chemical changes took place. And I stand up, and I stood and watched that snake. And I spoke with the snake. Oh, hello, good afternoon, snake. And then sat down and then tried to talk to her. And then suddenly the snake, what's called the tongue comes out, and then just coming like this, and then, oh, again. So I stood up and I was laughing at myself. So with that, I was able to overcome this fear of a snake. Now, having said that, doesn't mean that I don't have a fear. I'm not going to go near the snake at all. But there is a way to deal with that snake, or the fear of that snake. Is basically, rather than thinking of that object, bringing your awareness to be mindful of your own feelings. Any chemical changes took place in your mind. And with that, you are internalizing yourself. And that's how you overcome a fear. And the anticipation is much of the time is basically hoping that it may happen. I wish it to be happening. Like that. And here, mindfulness meditation, how does it help like that? Here is that in the practice of a meditation, help us to remain in the present moment. Learning to be in the present moment. And with that, what we understand that present moment is the result of the past. Right? Now, with that, the future is the result of now. Okay? So why worry about the future if you are planning and if you have a good awareness of now, what you're doing? And as I have said this early on, whatever reaction you're doing now defines the future. If you are reacting skillfully, happiness comes. If you are reacting with unskillfully, unhappiness comes. You don't have to anticipate. It's like a dead end. You will be. You will have it. So you don't have to anticipate it. You don't need to worry. You just wait and see the result. It is coming. So that's how, what happens is you can overcome it. Like in Scotland, members always know when they are traveling with me. They do not anticipate, and I do not plan. You can experience at anything at any time. Like recently, when I was driving a car, there was a smoke, and everybody say, "Oh, Achan, what you going to do, and how are you going to travel back to the temple? We should call a breakdown cover and so on." It's okay, don't worry, we will drive slowly. And we drove back. 2 hours later, we were in a temple. And then the same car, I drove down to Perth, 2 hours driving. Everybody was saying, "Oh, Achan, you can't drive. It's already broken. Smoke coming out. You cannot drive 70 miles per hour." And I said, "It's okay, we'll see. I will drive 40 miles per hour. And if that burn, then it's okay. I can call AA and take my car away, and I can buy a new one. If I can't, then let's see, I don't have to drive. It's much better." So no anticipation. Further on, what happens is that you have a basic plans. If this happens, what you're going to do? You have a basic plan, but not an absolute plan. Okay? When you have an absolute plan, that kills you. That will kill you. But if you have a basic plan, then you'll always win. Because you know, oh, I know it may happen. So I call it a mindful gap. When you are planning something, you have a mindful gap. This mindful gap basically gives you a space if not happening as you have planned. If it's not happening as you have anticipated, then you have, oh, I already knew that this is going to happen. You can laugh at your own plan. But if you have an absolute plan, must happen that way, then what happens? If anything wrong, you will be in deep sadness and sorrow, and you're bringing a suffering. Even in engineering studies, they do not say absolutely correct. They will say probability. Most probable. They do not say absolutely right. So same thing in a plan, never make it as absolute. Space mindful gap. And with that mindful gap, actually help us to energize us. And if you look at around, there is always this mindful gap in every way, everywhere, all the time. Without this mindful gap, nothing happens. Let's for the example, when you are burning woods, you cannot put two wood like this absolutely touching. Can you? You can't. If you're putting all the woods absolutely touching like this, you cannot burn it. There needs space. Space. With that, you can burn the wood. So fire is a product of not absolutely congested, but there are some spaces. In our life too, if you are married, you can't have an absolute touching all the time. You can't go all the time together. You have to have some space, right? That's why during the COVID-19, so many divorces, because they were living together all the time and they saw some fault in one another and annoyed. It doesn't matter how much they say, "I love you," eventually divorced. Whereas before COVID, what had happened? You are just coming and staying together only in the nights. All day you're working in somewhere else. The space is there. And with that, the relation was always, burning and making a beautiful life. Same with everything. If you look around, is there anything that's so absolutely touching and working perfectly? No. In order to harmonize, in order to things to grow and building the beautiful nature, there is a space. And with our life too, if we can put the space, then our life becomes beautiful. But if we make it static and absolute, no, it's not going to happen. Okay? So work slowly, but mindfully, and eventually you will reach and free. So I wish you all the best with that.
Thank you.
Right. Anybody else would like to share? Jonas, you want to say something? Yes?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for this idea of the basic plan and the mindful gap. Really, it works so well as understanding how to let go of too much structure and control. And second, something that goes a bit also about letting fear go. I've been listening to some Buddhist other meditation teachers, and one of them mentioned the idea of every experience being only the result of a 6-piece orchestra, which would, to think of it as a 6-piece orchestra, which would be or sight or smell, or what was it, taste, sensation,
Thinking.
and the last one, that was only 5. But anyway, the last one would be the thought. So whatever, let's say in the present moment, a worry about the future, let's say a worry of, oh, will I have enough money when I'm with pension? To realize that this is only a thought. It is a thought. It has nothing to do with reality at the moment, and it makes a completely new perspective when you have these kind of thoughts, just to realize, well, that cannot take over my life right now. It has nothing to do with me right now in this moment. So just let it go. Sometimes that can be helpful. Yeah,
yes.
I just wanted to share this.
Yes, yeah, good. Looks like Jonas is practicing well. Stefan, you want to say something?
Just during a meditation session, for myself, what helped me the most to avoid the thought is really focus on deep breath. Deep breath really help. So no thought. So just really focus on something, like deep breath helped me a lot. Oh, have no thought.
Yeah, okay, good. So I think I have to leave a little early today because this room, they're going to use it for another program for the day. So before ending, I just want to add 2 things. One, in the practice of a meditation, we call it a primary object, okay? So primary object is the first object that we use to focus, to develop our focus attention, and often known as a concentration meditation. And on the basis of that, when we are paying attention to it, whatever other objects arises, we call it the secondary object, right? Or you can call it a visitors. Yeah. And sometimes the first one is also known, primary object is also known as initial object, that you are initiating yourself to develop the concentration. Right? And in that case, normally, rather than object from outside of your body, we will be using our self, our body, our feeling, our emotions, and our thoughts. So with that, what happens is that these will be with us all the time. We don't have to carry with us, and we can practice wherever we are, in whichever situation we are in. And while we are focusing on that, whenever other things arises, which is the visitor or the secondary objects arises, we spend very little time with them. So that's why I use the observing, acknowledging, noting, and letting go and come back. So with this, it helps us to understand that anything that happens is actually happens for purpose, just for temporarily, and it vanishes, right? And from our daily routine, even to our own mind itself, it arises, remains, and vanishes. That's all happening in a short form. Right? And we will be able to comprehend that one. When we able to comprehend it completely, what happens is that our life becomes much easier and happier. And that's what we are practicing in our day-to-day life. Okay? So developing this focus attention by observing one object, adapting one object and working with that. And while we are working with it, whatever other things comes, we are paying attention to it, but not much attention to it. Okay? And come back. So that's how we practice. So that's why early on I was saying that the first four we call the Satipatthana, 4 foundations of a mindfulness, are the body, feeling, mental or mind or consciousness, and then the phenomena, okay? The conditions. And once we have practice with that one, then we will become more aware of what's happening. With that, we have the ability to define any action that we are taking, whether they're skillful or unskillful. And this will give us a power over our life and able to lead a happy life in the future. Right? So with this, let's practice loving kindness meditation to finish off. Okay, so sitting in comfortable position, relax yourself. You may gently close your eyes and take a long, deep breath. And spend a few moments reflecting on today's lesson. I will practice loving kindness meditation, so bring your attention to be mindful of any sensation that is taking place in your body. An entire body from top to bottom, observing any tension or any sensations, and relax. Along with the breath, you're observing any sensations in your body. And bring that attention to your hands. So keep the hand still and observing any sensations in your hand. A feeling of cold or a heat or softness or hardness. And bring that attention to your heart. feeling the beating heart. If you can't feel the beating heart, physically smiling will connect you. So smiling in your face and feel the connection with your heart. As you feel the connection with your heart and generating loving kindness and compassion to yourself, allowing yourself to be happy, feel the joy and peaceful. You may mentally recite, may I be happy. Feel the happiness from bottom of your heart. May I be well. Hatred. Feel the joy and happiness in your body, in your mind. May I be liberated, liberated. And extending this happiness to all the senses. Sharing loving kindness and compassion to that particular person. May you be happy. May you be at peace. May you be free from suffering. And extending it to all the sentient beings, far and wide, starting from the dear one, visible and invisible beings in the room, in the city, in the country, on earth, and in the universe. Whatever beings there are, visible and invisible beings, may they be happy. May they be free from suffering. May they be free from hurtfulness, hatred. May they be free from calamities. May they be free from troubles of the body and the mind. May they be liberated, liberated. Whatever beings there are, may all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. Now bring your attention back to your hands, aware of sensations in your hands. And to your body, aware of sensations in your body. And to your eyes, aware of tension in your eyes. Generating intention to open your eyes. And slowly come out from the practice, opening your eyes and reflect for a few seconds. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Unfortunately, I have to leave a little early today. I hope you all enjoyed and take this practice at home and practice at home. And we'll wait and hear from you next time. All the feedbacks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ravan. Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
teaching and thank you for your Dhamma today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you.